Welcome to Digital Fortress. I have Mark with me here today. Mark from Dolca, D-O-L-C-A, and also dCloud is joining us to talk about security. Mark has some experience in security. He has a lot of good information to share with us. What we'll be talking about today is the categories of security threats, defining the threat model. Delegator, as in, for example, Cardano stake pool delegators, as an example, delegator threat models, stake pool operator threat models, how to mitigate threats. We'll touch briefly on script kiddies and scams. This video is not dedicated to scams, but we'll touch on that briefly. And then the outlook, we're going to fast forward about 2 years from now and say, what does the market look like and how do the current and existing threats look in the context of that market as well? Welcome, Mark. Thanks for being here today. Appreciate you coming on. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. We spoke about making this video for quite a while, and it started with people asking me on Twitter to give them security advice, and just like you disclose all the time that this is not a financial advice, not a tax advice, and so on. It's really difficult to give a security advice over Twitter or even via email without actually understanding the context and the ability of individuals and their infrastructure and so on and so forth. So what I thought would be the best way to approach it would be to actually explain to people how security works and train them in the security mindset so they can protect themselves as opposed to rely on others to protect them and give them advice on how to protect themselves. So with further ado, let's start with the number one, right? So when we talk about security, we need to look at different. We need to classify the threats, and basically the most common classification is into three categories. Script kiddies, those would be like the individuals who either out of boredom or because they are opportunists or whatever, try to hack something, or someone pisses them off, so they want to bring their website down or harm them in any way. That's the most common but also least harmful way, except for those scams that cost people a lot of money. These are the kind of threats that you should protect against, and it's relatively easy to protect against. You need to have a patched operating system, up-to-date browser. Don't click on links you don't know. Usually, if you don't trust the website where you are, don't click on the link. Instead, write it down. Just like look at the link, what the characters should be, and write them down, because there could be malicious characters in the link hidden, and so on and so forth. So those would be script kiddies, and there is a huge market for script kiddies on a dark web or even on the public net, where you can purchase vulnerabilities, but not advanced one, like something that has been patched maybe 3 months ago. But if you haven't updated your operating system for 3 months or your phone for 3 months, these script kiddies can still take advantage of you and your system and take ownership and then do whatever they please. So that would be the category number one. So from the sophistication perspective, they are very little sophisticated and usually cannot do much harm for anyone who practices good security hygiene. Then there is the other group, and those would be either advanced individuals who may be during the day security researchers and during the night some villains.
Red hats. So, Mark, can I summarize the first category, which is the most common that we can protect ourselves against? Keep your operating system up to date. Don't click on suspicious link in emails.
Or on a website, on Reddit.
Or on a website, anywhere. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I know some people might call this common sense, but I've heard these same recommendations 20 years ago, and there's still people today getting hit by these types of attacks.
Here is the thing that sometimes boggles me, I always worked for large organizations, and it doesn't matter if you are a secretary or if you are a CEO or if you are an IT folk. you are going to get a security training every year, and you need to go through it, right? In
Mm-hmm.
smaller companies, you don't have that. So sometimes, I speak to my mom, my sister, my dad, what they do at work, and it boggles my mind, like, how can you be doing that? How are you not trained not to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it come to us as a common sense, but I understand also the other side when it doesn't come to them as a common sense, and this is where we need to educate. So,
Yeah.
patching policy, definitely in a corporate environment, it's handled by IT. In your environment, you simply need to click on that button, check for updates every week or so. For if you have Windows every month, they have Patch Tuesday, right.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be one. The links, those are a tricky one. In email, obviously, you could be a target of a phishing attack. So that's more dangerous than a link on the web in general. But if you are asking a question about where I should download Daedalus Wallet on Reddit, and somebody posts there a link to the Daedalus website, don't click on that link. Look at what is written in the link and type it in. Unless it's like by somebody who has the CF flair, or is trusted member of the community, has a high upvote, or whatever. But if it's like you just posted a question, 5 seconds later somebody replied, it could be a bot targeting you with the link to a phishing website that will contain a malicious version of that Daedalus or whatever.
Yep. Okay, which is a
So
common attack that has happened recently. So the first category was the script kiddies. Now you're going on to the advanced types, who could be red hats by night. So what do you got there? What kind of
black
attack?
hats, not
What
red
what does
hats.
that threat model look like? Red hats,
Black hats, not red hats. Black hats.
black hats, black
Yeah,
hats. Okay, so the
yeah.
black hats. What are the black hats, and what's the threat model look like?
Well, the thing with black hats is that they don't go fishing. They target their target individuals. It could be high net worth individual, or somebody, or it could be out of vengeance, or it could be because you posted on Twitter, I think my system can't be hacked. Well, they got an ego to prove that they can hack you. That's like the dumbest thing you can do. Brag on the internet about your unhackable system. Once you do that, there's gonna be a lot of people just out of they may not even do harm. They may just like leave you a text file in a home directory. I've been here, or they may take advantage of you, but don't do that. You're gonna motivate a lot of clever people who spend their 8 to 10 hours at work, and then they have some spare time after work, and they are like, okay, so who I'm gonna destroy today. And they may spend weeks trying to get you, if you are really being cocky on the internet. So that would be one subset of that category. Those would be like really individuals who work in security by day, and basically breach other people's security without consent by night, let's say. uh, the other subset of this category are
Organized groups.
organized groups, and those do both phishing attacks and your typical scams on Telegram and so on and so forth, where they have like 5, 10 people who in the Telegram rooms who monitor for newcomers, and then they have another team of people who are not members of those groups, but they have the profile with Rick's picture, and I will never DM you in their nickname, and they DM you anyway.
Yeah.
So that's sort of an organized crime. uh, and these target either as mentioned newcomers into the industry, or they target mid-sized companies, or even or sometimes they get lucky with a large one as well that is sloppy. I had a customer for whom I did the postmortem after their factory for chocolates and other things been shut down by ransomware, and it was basically a small group of maybe 20 people who did that. So not a big group, not well funded. They just got lucky. Uh, so these are the threats that the delegates need to focus on. Those are these people, these kind of actors are in their threat model.
Oh,
Uh,
it's in the delegators threat model. So if someone
in a in a
finds
delegator threat
out,
model.
so if someone
Yeah,
finds out
if I
the
find out you
identity of a
have
big
500,
delegator,
yeah, if I find out you have 500,000 ADA, you are just a delegate, I'm going to try to breach your security to get that ADA,
okay.
right?
So it's important for the delegators. Now it's difficult for the stake pool operators. Well, I mean, there are always measures that people can take, but for the delegators, if someone finds out their ID and how much ADA they have, they can be targeted by these black hat who say, "Wow, you know what? 500K ADA, that's a pretty big bounty. That's worth me spending my time trying
Yeah,
to
that could
isolate that."
easily, justify a week of half-time job. First of all, when you are targeting targets like that, you don't work on one 24 by 7. You have 10, 15, 20 of them, and you attack them as a group, and consistently, and so on and so forth. So those would be, so against those, attachments in emails, recent phishing attacks via email on the ledger users, that kind of a thing.
Okay.
And then those are things that the delegate should be aware of. And then, the very good mitigation against that is hardware wallet. I myself prefer Trezor because it's open hardware and open source software, but Ledger is against this type of actor. It's just as good.
Okay. All right. So the threat is someone has a lot of ADA, someone else identifies that, they target the person with the big bags, and they spend time day after day, week after week,
Well,
trying
not week
to
after week,
social engineer and security engineer this
yeah,
person.
they
And the
use a
mitigation
combination.
is
They
the
use a
hardware wall.
combination. They use a combination of social techniques and the technical techniques.
Hmm.
They may use a social technique to exploit a technical vulnerability in your defenses. But by,
Okay.
by by default, if you are on your home Wi-Fi, you are relatively secure as long as you don't go on the internet, don't read emails, don't click on the suspicious links, or even not suspicious links on a website. There always needs to be something that will execute the attack.
Okay.
And current systems are relatively good at that if your browsers, your email clients, and your operating system is updated.
Okay.
There are the sort of attacks that you visit a website and they gain control of your machines. Those are usually patched very quickly, and the updates are available almost immediately. So if you update your browser regularly, you shouldn't be a subject to such an attack. But if you don't update your system regularly, then you may succumb to that.
There you go.
But
All right.
but
So again, we're
but
back to keep your operating system up to date, keep your software applications up to date, use the hardware wallet, and
and
it,
don't
it
and don't
provides
open.
it provides layers of defense. None of them is
Yeah.
perfect, but
Yeah,
the more
there
layers
is
you
no there
have,
is no such thing as a perfect security. Everybody can be hacked, including Iranian nuclear facilities, as we learned in 2007.
yeah, they can also be hacked. You'd think they'd be isolated from the internet, but they can be hacked.
They've been
There's a few.
they have been isolated from the internet, and the malware got to the industrial controllers through USB sticks. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is, I was recently giving some footage to Czech police. They just took my USB stick and plugged it into their computer, which is connected to the
The police network
the police database and the
on
network.
the
Exactly.
inside of it.
Yeah, but when I was a technician who came to actually fix a problem to to a data center operated by a Czech police,
Yeah.
they searched me thoroughly to make sure I have no personal electronic devices on me. But when I went there as a regular folk, just reporting or adding evidence to a crime because I've seen somebody beaten on the street, so I took a footage on my phone. I copied it from the phone onto the flash drive, and they just took the flash drive, plugged it in, and
You
like
could add anything.
if I would be a sophisticated attacker that wanted something from the police database, uh,
But
advanced persistent threat, that would be a vector of attack that combines social engineering and a technical exploit, right?
wow,
Because
that's
well,
clever. Yeah.
they obviously they have an issue with processes and how they train their staff, right?
Yeah.
Because people who are like in the data center, those are being taught on security issues and trained on that. So they search you and they make sure you have no devices that you could use to exploit their system.
Hmm.
But the regular police officer who just
Collecting
does
evidence.
that collects evidence and so on, he is not being trained to that level of extent. He may receive training maybe once 3 years, once 5 years. Well, information goes in, information goes out, and you know
It
so
takes practice and discipline to make sure
it
you do it
it
all
takes
the time.
it
Only
takes a
one
lot of
mistake. It only takes
discipline.
one
Yeah.
mistake. Yeah. There's a couple comments in chat that I'm going to hit on. A couple of folks had some good inputs. We had one from Andrea from Salad Steak Pool, Ensalada Steak Pool. He said another tip: use a service to check shortened URLs. That's a good point. Shortened URLs are also problematic. Uh, People could slip anything they want in there. The Elite Trans says, I'd also like to separate the devices, and it's in the hardware devices. Use a separate device that you use to manage money or, security devices. All right, thank you, Elite Trans.
I mean,
And
it is a
Taito says that we're talking about digital hacking. Physical threats are much more of a concern. So yeah, you got to look at the risk assessment matrix. What is the probability and what is the severity, right?
well.
So the
So
probability of physical threat is lower, the severity is higher. The probability of a digital threat is higher, and the
well
severity is
because
still high. It's not the highest, but it's still a high. So it's actually the digital is a higher threat
Well,
risk, although
there
physical
is a
has a more.
there is a very easy mental exercise that you can do when it comes comparing physical versus digital security. There is about 6 billion people on the planet that can hack you. In my country, there is only 10 million people who can beat me with a rubber hose to extract my password. So the scale factor of 600, or I don't have a calculator in my head, but on the internet you are a target for 6 to 7 billion people. In your country, in your city, in your home, in your house, you are a target for much smaller group. But of course, if they manage to identify you as a physical person, then
Yeah.
of course the physical security comes into play as well.
Hmm.
Then you have a decision. So if you use Ledger, I believe that if you enter, and here we assume that okay, either you have a relatively new computer, so and you aren't cheap, so you bought at least Windows 10 Pro, or you bought Apple, or you have a Linux with encrypted drive.
Okay, that's fair
So
enough. Yeah, that's
so the hard
all
drive
categories met.
itself,
Yes.
the physical hardware is encrypted at rest. When somebody approaches you physically, and your computer, you have a choice to make.
Hmm.
Will I enter that password, or will I let them beat me? Or maybe I will just smash the computer with a hammer so they will lose the motivation to keep on beating me. That's
Hmm.
also a strategy. If you have your backups in place in some other location, if you throw your laptop out of the window, well, they just have nothing to, no motivation to continue abusing you because they just have nothing to gain anymore. And when it comes to the hardware devices, if you enter, I believe in Ledger, it's by default 3 times the pin code wrong,
Hmm.
the device is erases, and you need your seed phrase to recover. It's similar with Trezor by default. If you make the pin, if you make the pin 10 times wrong, it deletes itself. But for Trezor, this isn't sufficient against let's say group attackers or organized crime, because there are methods how to extract and then brute force. They are highly sophisticated, but if you have 100K US in that wallet, it makes me and anybody else willing to spend those $1,500 you need on hardware to break the security on the Trezor, which is why Trezor itself recommends to use pin code and the passphrase.
I
And
don't use that yet, but I've heard of that. I like Trezor, and
the nice
I'm gonna
thing,
set that up. I'm gonna set that up here,
and the
hopefully later today.
very nice thing you can do with Trezor is that you can set up multiple passphrases. So let's say you have 100 bitcoins, right?
Hmm.
And you can have that under one passphrase, and then you can have just zero point 0.1 Bitcoin under a different passphrase. Somebody attacks you, he knows you have some Bitcoin, he doesn't know how much because, well, he says on the internet you said you have 100 Bitcoins. Well, I bragged. Who doesn't on the internet, right? And you enter the passphrase that shows him just the point 0.1 Bitcoin, and that's what he steals. And then he goes away, leaves you alone because he believes that he got all that he could because he believes you bragged, right?
Hmm. Yeah, so
Doesn't
it's something. It's better than nothing.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
always, something's always better than nothing.
It's
That's
always
a
risk
really
risk management. It's always risk management.
yeah.
It's not nothing is perfect and complete.
Yeah, we got a few more questions in chat. This is about security. Envios Toretto says, is Cardano building an ICO platform on Coinbase? Not security related, but we can't answer that here. Sorry, Envios. Ad Astra Stake Pool, I love that name. That was that movie with Brad Pitt. Ad Astra at
Yeah.
Stake Pool asks, how can using a VPN help your online security? Otos Tech, we'll come back to that in a second. Otos Tech from Auto Stake Pool asks, also use a virtual machine with Linux to deal with delegation. It's not a bad idea. That's an interesting idea. People who can do that with a virtual machine. So what do you think, Mark? Is there anything a VPN can do to help with online security? Does it help mitigate risk? No, we have 3 categories. We touched on 2 to 3. So let's hit a couple questions. Then we'll go into category 3. Sound good?
So the
All right,
VPN
VPN, what does that do for you?
VPN, well, it certainly improves if you trust the VPN provider. It certainly improves privacy, and it somewhat makes it harder for an attacker to make a connection between your virtual self and your physical self. So if you are using a VPN, you can appear as a guy from Norway while living in Spain. So you are the one with 1,000 bitcoins, and they will be looking for you in Norway while you are sitting on a beach in Spain. Well, good luck, right?
Mm-hmm.
so
Yep.
so there is an aspect to that, but implicitly it doesn't do that much from a security standpoint. If you open a malicious attachment in an email like Excel file with macros, and
Mm-hmm.
you enable the macros, it doesn't matter if you are connected to the VPN or not. And if you are connected to the company VPN and you do that from your personal email, you are probably going to get fired for breaching the company corporate security.
Yeah. So what I've read is the benefits of a VPN is you're delegating your trust from your ISP to the VPN provider,
Yeah.
and it actually can be helpful in countries where Something is prohibited.
Censorship, certainly,
Censorship, yeah.
certainly. If you live in a country that is let's say not as democratic as you would like, you may have conflicting opinions with your government and so on. It may help you a little bit, but if you become really annoying to the government, VPN won't save your ass. That's what Tor is for. And even if you become too annoying on Tor, they will find you if they are motivated to find you.
Everything leaves breadcrumbs. Everything.
Exactly, exactly.
Everything. I know some of these VPN providers claim to never store logs, but
And there's been cases of there's been cases of VPN providers being owned by a secret service of some not so friendly governments. So, it's
that
claimed.
could.
I mean, I would believe Proton VPN and some other probably, but it's always. I mean, I trust my ISP. I have no reason not to trust my ISP. I know their CTO. They are relative. They are a local, like a Czech company. They may have like 500 employees. So I have no reason not to trust them, unless there is a lawful intercept order from the government or whatever.
Mhm.
And most of the traffic is encrypted nowadays anyway. You open Google, it's encrypted. You open whatever website, it's encrypted. You download emails, it's encrypted. You log it onto the server through SSH, it's encrypted. So from this perspective, it doesn't do much. But if I would be in Russia, in Belarus, Hong Kong now, after the controversial change of law there, that there definitely I would feel much safer with Swiss or Czech or American VPN than I would feel with Chinese telecom ISP not spying on me. But then again, using VPN in China is illegal unless you are a corporate entity, which needs to get a special permit for their Chinese branch offices to connect to the out of China headquarters.
They got to
And
get through the firewall. They got to get through that great firewall.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And for
Mark,
that, you need permission.
you hit on the first two categories, and the first is the script kiddies. The second one is the black hats, who are more advanced. What is the third category of threat model, and how do we mitigate that?
So that's called advanced persistent threats. And it's like it's at sort of it's like there are many of them, and much more than they are being reported. If you look like at the FireEye report, you may find like 550 advanced persistent threats being listed and attributed to connections to certain either organized crimes groups or certain governments, either as actually being an arm of the government or just being somehow tolerated, like they know who these guys are, but they leave them alone because they sometimes may need or do need their help to rig elections or whatever.
Are
uh,
those threats are they a threat to a delegator or a stake pool operator, or is this
they
more
they are
advanced?
not the threat to a delegator unless he is politically active. Like if Andreas Antonopoulos would be an ADA holder, these advanced persistent threats would be very much interested in him because they already are very interested in him.
Okay, with Bitcoin and
But
his
it but it but
advocacy
it
for
but it
Bitcoin.
would have nothing to do with money.
So, what is the advanced persistent threat? How do we define that first?
It's
It's
so
it's
it's a
a
it's a it's it's a it's a sort of attacker whose objective is not is not immediate. He doesn't seek immediate gain. He wants to gain access to your system. He uses advanced techniques. His campaign can last for weeks, months, even years if the target is worth it.
mhm.
They use so-called zero-day or O-day exploits, which means that until it was used, the manufacturer of the software didn't know there is a vulnerability in that software, and they basically try to do no harm and try to remain undetected and maintain access until there is some trigger where they need to. For instance, imagine you would be a foreign government and you would manage to penetrate a power grid. That
Okay.
would you wouldn't go and shut down the lights today. You would wait for maybe a civil unrest to start, and then you would shut down because it causes more damage.
I
And
got
that's
you.
and that's something that the SPO, the bigger the SPO is, the more of a target he is for these advanced persistent threats. But as I mentioned, these state-sponsored and state-tolerated, they are also private advanced persistent threat groups, which simply have their own agenda. Uh, they usually those are the anti-state ones.
Hmm.
So you may have a state of Russia who has some of their, let's say, friendly hackers,
Okay.
just like the U.S., just like Israel, just like pretty much every country that can afford it. But there are groups within Russia which are anti-Russian government who are also advanced persistent threats, and they have access to much bigger resources in terms of finance, in terms of research, in terms of knowledge, and so on and so forth. They
What's the
even they
mitigation?
even
So this isn't a threat to delegators so much as it is to state pool operators, right?
yeah.
What's
And
the mitigation? This is intense. This is some
There,
serious
there,
spy versus
there,
watch.
there isn't, and this is where
Ooh.
this is where the funny story I told you about comes in.
Okay.
So in Czech Republic, we have two major antivirus companies. One of them got penetrated by an advanced persistent threat attacker about 3 years ago.
Okay.
It took them about a week to detect that they have been infiltrated, and they let them on their network for a year and a half. They actually funded a startup that developed monitoring tools to monitor the network, gain metrics, collect logging information, and so on and so forth, and spent a year and a half knowing they have somebody else on their network, and just trying to figure out what are these guys up to.
Wow, that is
Th-
crazy.
th- This is how you handle advanced persistent threats. There there are way too many companies uh, which know that they actually been compromised by APTs, but they don't remove them, because the first thing that the APT does when they manage to gain access to your network is that they establish 100 different ways how to get that access again. So you just discovered this one hole they got in, you patch it, well they wait a month, and then they use the other way that they prepared for themselves when they had access to your network. So they are very hard to detect because they use very sophisticated unknown vectors of attack and establishing control and so on and so forth. And you basically don't kick them out until you are certain that you've monitored them for long enough that you know what they wanted, why they wanted it, who hired them, or what was their objective, what country they are associated with, or you really study them. And it's not that novel concept. There is a book that I read when I was a child, and let me quickly Google it because I don't remember the English name. Uh, it's but it was about the guy. It was about the guy who actually noticed somebody penetrated the Department of Defense
It's not called Digital Fortress,
network.
is it?
No,
Just so people
It's
know,
so it's
Digital
by
Fortress
Cliff's.
name comes from cryptocurrencies because cryptocurrency is a digital fortress. But if you ever read the book Digital Fortress, it. I don't want to be a spoiler. It's been out for a long time since prior to 1998, I think, when I read it, and yeah,
Okay,
it's more about the hacker side of things. So Digital
so
Fortress is about cryptocurrency. It's a
so
YouTube channel.
so the name is the cuckoo's egg.
The cuckoo's what?
The cuckoo's egg,
The
like the
cuckoo's egg.
bird, like
Okay.
the bird.
Yep.
Tracking a spy through a maze of computer espionage. It was written in 1989 by Clifford Stoll, who was working at the Berkeley National Laboratory, and he accidentally stumbled upon, I think it was, I don't remember, and I'm not gonna
Yeah.
read the Wikipedia
Yeah.
page. It was years
Sing
ago,
read the book. Sing says
but
it's a
I
great
think
book.
but I think it was a, we will put the link below in the description later, I
Okay.
guess.
All right. I'll put it down there. Yeah.
But it was, I believe it was a Soviet spy at that time, who actually, used managed to gain access to different Department of Defense systems. And this guy from academia that noticed something suspicious, but and as he tried to escalate through the organization, like there is something suspicious, everybody was sending him away, like give us a break, there is nothing going on, because back then there was no notion of cybersecurity, cyber crime, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So he, on his own, in his spare time, was basically doing this monitoring of the threat. And after, I don't remember if it was 6 months or a year and a half, doesn't really matter. But after a very long period of time, he collected a series of evidence, and then he went with that evidence to somebody really high up the food chain and said, like, look guys, we had a spy here for 6 months, year and a half, whatever. And then he wrote a book on that topic. Advanced persistent threats, although the word is new,
Concept has been
the
around
thread
for
it,
quite some time.
the thread itself is not that fresh.
Right.
It's with us since the Cold War. And try to do your best to protect your system against these first two levels of attackers. And if you are a big SPO, we talk about managing millions to trillions of dollars. We talk about managing infrastructure for vulnerable countries. Imagine a war conflict in Africa, and that African nation using Cardano as backbone of their economy. Do you think the stake pool operators of Cardano would not become a target of such advanced persistent threats, just in order to censor the economic transactions within that country that is suffering that war conflict? Of course they would. Uh,
That's a good
so
point.
so this is something actually that I'm going to invest my time and effort into. There are lots of it's called Security Information Event Management System, and there is a very nice project called Apache Metron.
Okay.
And what I'm currently doing is that I am establishing policies of what is normal behavior on a stake pool.
Okay.
I
So the
monitor all the logs. What
perfect.
I capture traffic and make a profile, statistical analysis, and so on and so forth. And it may take, it doesn't make sense to release it to the public until we have that peer-to-peer governor turned on,
Yeah.
because that will change the profile of the network communication a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, I will release a USB or is ICO image that you can flash on a USB or run as a VM, and you point your logs towards these log collectors, and it will use Hadoop and other methods like machine learning and so on to monitor for anomalies.
Okay.
And you notice anomaly, you detect it, and then you need to decide what do you do.
Mm-hmm.
it you could do a brief analysis of that anomaly, and it could be a false positive. In that case, you don't do nothing. It could be a script kiddie. You may recognize it because you Google the name of the script and you notice that it's a 3 months old script and you forgot to update one of your servers. So then you cut it. Or you may notice that it's some sort of a sophisticated attack, and then you use that intelligence extracted from that security information event management system to monitor and figure out what these guys are up to. You reach out to the stateful operators you trust. You notify them. You try to you establish. They are a group. They
Mhm.
attack you as a group. What you need to do and how you need to defend yourself is to reach out to your friends and establish a counter group that will monitor what they are up to, and then when you have enough data to actually be sure that you prevent it, that you can close the loop on them. You even involve government. I mean, there are cybersecurity laws regarding this in many countries. So you may involve the government in that sort of sophisticated attack as well. Uh, Recently, Czech Republic suffered advanced persistent threats on a hospital in the middle of the first wave of the coronavirus crisis. One hospital, basically, their entire information systems have been shut down. So it's ever present threat, and it's not something imaginary. And if we talk about the high values, and and especially if you are one small SPO, y- y- unless if you are using your own scripts, your own builds, not somebody else's script, there is the cost to benefit is very little. But the larger operation you have, and as we touched on to Twitter, and even with you run multiple pools.
Mhm.
But I appreciate the honesty that you disclose it, so
Mhm.
I, as a delegate, can quantify the risk. Is it worth to me to delegate to Digi when I know that if it comes to that, Digi will be bigger target than somebody else,
Mhm.
because you probably use the same scripts on all your servers. You have standardized policies, and while standardized policies of course give you strength, they also give you some sort of weakness, because if they discover a weakness in one of the servers, they can probably replicate the same weakness on all the other servers, right?
Mhm.
So it's two-edged sword, and with advanced persistent threats, it's always about management and trying to outsmart it. Not you cannot beat them. It may be hundreds of hackers,
Yeah, it's
but
not
you
like
need to be
some
you need to
you
be
install
smarter.
malware bites and it goes away. That
Yeah,
doesn't work. they're
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
they're gonna keep going. Hence
yeah.
persistent. So we've been going quite some time. This has been fantastic, Mark. Let's do a summary. I'm going to check chat real quick. We'll summarize everything we're going to touch on. I think we hit on scams. If we want to touch a tiny bit more on that, that's fine. We do have some comments from Insulata. They said security is a process, not a product.
Exactly. That's certainly true, and it's never-ending process.
There you go. Always vigilant, always continuous, right? You just can't plug
Yeah.
it in and you have security. You have to always be vigilant and always stay up to date about security.
For
And it's
for
pretty
for
easy to do. It's not hard. It's not hard. It just
for
takes
ins- for
practice
for,
and
for
discipline.
instance, if there is any SPO listening and he is not yet subscribed, whatever Linux distribution you use, they are going to have a mailing list which will be called something like security announcements or whatever. Just go and subscribe to that list. You may receive one or two emails a day,
Hmm.
but one day it may save your ass, because it's gonna be like vulnerability A was discovered yesterday. Today the patch is available, so patch immediately, and so on and so forth. So certainly SPOs
Because the
should
bad guy
should
is going to get that email too.
Oh,
The
he
bad guy is going to get that email.
the bad guy is the reason why they had to send the email in the first place, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Somebody else out there suffered so that you may
I mean,
continue.
I'm not saying if I am a good guy or a bad guy, but I am subscribed to a lot of security lists.
Yeah. There is Alfred asks a question. That's Alfred from Stakepool Cash from the Hotel Ginebra, soon to be
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah.
the Hotel
Cardano
Cardano
Hotel.
Ginebra.
Yeah.
And he says, I presume IOHK has a security section where they try to hack their own products. Kevin Hammond, good point considering the current Ethiopia situation. So Alfred agrees with your point about, like conflict in Africa and the threat to stake pool operators. Theory becomes reality instantly.
I
And
don't.
IOHK does have a chief of cybersecurity. It is not Kevin. You can look his name up on IOHK.io, and they have multiple types of security. I don't know what they
They
all
do.
are,
So
but
they do.
there's the
They do.
security of their infrastructure, and then there's the security of
Yeah,
Cardano
exactly.
node, right?
There are several ways to look at it.
Yeah.
So IOG as an organization has an infrastructure that needs to be protected and applications. Uh, they develop a product. Somebody may be interested in embedding a vulnerability into that product without notice, and they have at least 200 million word of data. So there may be somebody interested in taking ownership of that.
Hmm.
But and they have also an audit department which does cryptography audit. They don't do audit of the code in a sense if there are memory overflows or something like that. For that they hire the external auditors.
Okay. Like last time was
But
Route 9B, and they
yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and they've rotated auditors, which I think is also a good thing,
Yeah,
right?
there are for banks there are even government guidelines that they need to rotate out
They got to
auditors
rotate the
at least in
auditor.
Europe.
Yeah.
Uh,
So the chief of
uh,
cybersecurity is Charles Morgan, cybersecurity director.
but I don't think they do penetration testing on their product that they would try, and it's basically it wouldn't even be that much meaningless. I
Hmm.
don't think there is a big attack surface when it comes to taking ownership of the server that hosts the node in the Cardano node. There
Okay.
may be some issues with like denial of service. So somebody with carefully crafted packet may be able to bring down your relay.
Hmm.
Well, what will happen? Your relay will automatically restart, and in 1 minute it's up.
Yeah.
Okay, he does that again. The relay restarts again,
Hmm.
and you have I don't know. I think you have 9 relays, or at least last time I checked, you had
It's
nine.
7. Yeah,
Yeah,
7.
okay, seven.
Hmm.
So if he keeps on repeating that, at least one is probably going to still be alive. So
Hmm.
what you don't look at the I wouldn't consider Cardano node to be a point of vulnerability from the perspective of taking ownership of the system. It's rather the target.
Hmm.
So they will use some other vector like that the one SPO that got hacked because he misconfigured the Docker,
Hmm.
right? And he lost his pledge, sadly.
Hmm.
Uh, they there may be 100 other ways how to hack into your system and then gain control of the Cardano node and censor transactions without you noticing it.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Because
and a direct attack on Cardano node isn't as bad as an attack that gets into the file system to find the private keys.
exactly.
And it's a different path, or they can take a
It's
different
it's
path.
it's a different path. I am not saying there are definitely 100% not RC remote code execution vulnerabilities in the Cardano node. There may be, and there are actually ways to test for that.
Hmm.
And we are working on a process how to test for them as well. It's called fuzzing. So you you
Fuzzing, yeah.
you run you randomly feed the network socket with random data. But recently, in past 5 years, the 15 years ago, it used to be like you really took random data and fed it and tried if the application breaks. Now, like 3 5 years ago, it got combined with machine
Yeah.
learning and so on and so forth. So now there are very nice advanced tools which I like to play with when I'm playing with them. I'm playing with them on Cardano node, and eventually there will be a continuous testing process that everybody will be able to use, and it works that way that if every single one of us spends an hour of his CPU time on it, and there are 1,000 of SPOs, that's 1,000 of hours per day testing the security of our system, right?
Hmm.
So it scales very well if people adopt it. We develop a standardized mechanism, we put it out there, and people start contributing. And like Umed, he has like, I don't know, 32 cores.
Yeah.
Beef server, 128 megabytes of RAM.
Mhm.
When most of it is sitting idle, he could actually run this continuous fuzzing on the node and trying to detect vulnerabilities and protect the Cardano network for everyone. Same goes for you and many other stateful operators. But it needs research. Because if we release it now, it would be people complaining it doesn't work, and they would ask a bunch of questions because it's not documented yet, and it would take our focus from developing the product further. So we better develop something inside and then publish it as a documented process that everybody is able to replicate without trying to overload us with questions on what to do, because it mentioned
Yes.
an error.
Yes. So that is a good subject. For example, for the Cardano stake pool best practice channel, right? I don't know if you use that channel on Telegram. It's
I
basically
can't.
it. In the last 3 months, it's kind of turned into a little bit of the training wheels channel, but it's also advanced. So there's advanced users helping new users in that channel. But eventually, we will get to back into the best practices more so than how to node, and or how to set up a node. And so security would be a great one to have in there. Now I know there are certain. I mean, I don't think they're established best practices, but there are some best practices that are pretty well known that are shared among the stake pool operators. But it would be great to have more advanced stuff. Oh, you know what's interesting? Okay, a little side note, and we'll wrap up. We'll summarize and wrap up here. You mentioned fuzzing, and I saw a discussion on Twitter yesterday where someone said fuzzing could have solved that. You hit it with data, and a fellow pointed out a, a glitch in Ethereum, if I remember correctly, and there was a comment above the line of code that said set b equals b minus 1 or something like that. And then the line below it said s colon b as the variable.
Yeah.
And then he said, I found the fix to this bug that's been out there for years. And he just basically set the actual line of code to s colon b minus 1, which is what the comment right above it
Yeah.
said. And then someone below that said, formal verification would have caught this.
It wouldn't.
It wouldn't. I didn't know. I was looking at it thinking,
And
would
neither
it catch that? Or would it
neither
just take
it
extensive testing would catch
it,
that? Were you
it wouldn't get catched by fuzzing. It wouldn't get catched
you saw that comment?
by I didn't
Okay.
by formal methods. It would get solved by something what is called mutation coverage. It basically means that an application takes your source code and changes different parts of that source code and tries to compile the binary. If it fails, if it doesn't, and it's I have a friend who writes a investment bot for a community. It's a peer-to-peer lending platform, and he uses this for his Java application, and
Okay.
it caught couple bugs,
Okay.
but it's not a widely used method. And these type of bugs, I mean, they always happen. They are hard to catch. If you can never have 100% coverage, because or The only point at which you can reach 100% test coverage is the point at which you say, I am not going to develop my application further. This is the final version of my application. And there is one
And no one
application
ever does that unless they
well, there is
completely
one I
shelf
know.
it.
I know
They
there is one I know about.
okay.
It's called Tech,
Okay. Well,
TEEX. And if you ever read a scientific paper by IOG, they
I've read
actually
the
write it.
abstracts.
But they publish them as PDFs, right?
Yes. On ePrint, yes.
They write them in this formal typing language called LaTeX.
Latex, yep.
And and the inventor, basically it's the version started with 3, and every
Okay.
new version gets added a decimal of a pi, and the application will be frozen when the founder of the project dies. There will be no new releases, but the version will be like 3 point and some decimals of pi.
Okay.
And at
I,
that point the application is complete, and
okay.
they can have 100% coverage, and
I
and
know what you
be
mean.
happy with their 100% security.
Yeah. All right. One last thing we got to hit on the 2 year outlook. Okay.
So
In 2 years. So, quick summary threats are the script kiddies and
there's
delegators
gonna
and stake
there's
operators need to be aware.
there's gonna be more of them. They're gonna be more sophisticated groups. There's gonna be more of them. They're gonna be more sophisticated. APTs, there will be just the same, but there will be better tools available for smaller companies and security aware individuals like yourself and myself, that will help detect them and somehow deal with them. Uh, from the hardware perspective, we will probably have open, secure, open source hardware that will be able to run trusted execution environments. There is a company called Tropic Square, which is a joint venture between Satoshi Labs, which makes Trezor, and other company and former Intel employee
Okay.
that was developing FPGA applications and actually designing silicon chips. So they will be making secure chips, which will be open source, formally verified. There will be there will be definitely an increase in our capability to defend even against state-sponsored advanced persistent threats, because when we have these open source chips, they can't when you have these closed source chips like Ledger has,
Okay.
if you are not politically problematic, I wouldn't be afraid of using it. But if I would be a political dissident in France, and I know it's a democratic country, of course,
Hmm.
but that there may be some extremist, whatever it may be white supremacist. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, every
Uh,
country has those problems, but yeah.
that's yeah. That would be something that you could care about. You could have a problem with, because there may be some deal between the French government and Ledger due to the nature of the closed source secure element, or NSA may have
Okay,
recently.
so let me see if I can bring this to bring it down to my level because you're really advanced on this. Samsung's making cell phones with an advanced security chip in it. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
Okay.
but
And if I were to use that technology, if my Samsung phone has that chip in it, it provides some layer of protection because it has a secure enclave for processing data.
yeah.
And is there any hardware features in there that you know of that are currently in use that are protecting the users? I know that's a tough
Uh,
question.
You mean that are protecting the users? Well, that's the
Yeah,
whole
like
point of
most.
the secure enclave.
Yeah.
You have an application that runs in a separate secure enclave environment,
Okay.
and And basically you have this concept of privileged and unprivileged applications. And as long as you are not dumb enough to run an unsecure application and give it the privileged access, it shouldn't be able to exchange information and extract those cryptographic information
Okay.
from the secure enclave. But if you look at it from a state perspective, well, Samsung Knox may be may be safe against all the major groups, but it probably wouldn't hold against China, US NSA. Israel has very advanced technology capabilities in that area, and all these things. I mean, every year at least one or two of these secure chips get broken at conference called DEF CON,
Hmm.
and it's epic fun.
Oh yeah. I haven't. I've seen DEF CON advertised where I actually saw one time there was a U.S. general who went to DEF CON to address the hackers.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it on YouTube. I don't remember the exact context. But he's like, "Hey, we're all in the same business here. You guys are just taking it a little differently, or something like that." It was pretty cool. But yeah, so there are mitigation features. We're talking 2 years out. Threats are the same, more advanced.
The the the
You also
the
have
the,
more
the, the,
options
le-
available.
the less advanced threats will be more advanced.
Hmm.
The advanced threats will be just as advanced as they are, because there is not much further they can go. But we, as the consumers and stateful operators and whatever, will have better weapons to protect against them.
Excellent.
We
All
will
right.
be better. We will be better equipped to fight them.
We'll be better equipped. All right. The more we know, the better off we are. Well, I look forward to it, Mark. Is it part of your decloud project with where you said you might be able to make for example, a USB or an image or something people could
So
download,
it's
run it on their stake pool, establish a baseline of normal, find the anomalies? What project is that part of you're working on?
it's
Or is it
somewhat connected and somewhat independent
is it in the open source
initiative.
category?
It basically, so the decloud nodes will need to have established security.
Okay.
So if the decloud gets funded and I will start working on it, I will have to do this work anyway. Well, I have some free time on my hands. I have some developers available because I gained some funding from some third parties. And I am using it to build basically a trusted execution environment and this security information event management system. Uh, because it's something that we have time for, and we want to do it. We have time for it, and if the cloud gets funded, it will shorten our time to market.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks for that, Mark. I think we're about ready to wrap up here. We went a little bit over time than we planned earlier. Hopefully, viewers that come back and visit this video can let us know. A few other good points that were brought up in chat. Darren Haig says, don't open emails from any one SPO. And Talia says, testing usually cannot prove the software is without bugs, but it can minimize the chance for a bug to slip through. Very well said.
It's a
All right.
mitigation. It's not a solution.
There you go. Mitigation, and it's an ongoing process. Security is an ever ongoing process. All right. Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate you coming on Digital Fortress, Dolcapol, DOLCA, Dolca, and the DCloud project on Project Catalyst. Thank you for your time, Mark. I appreciate it. Come back anytime. All right.
Thank you very much, and I hope the viewers will have something to take away from this and improve their security and feel safer at least.
All right. Sounds good, man. Thank you.
All right, cool.